In many programs, it can be helpful to upload student information so that you can control students logging into programs. I am going to use Kia as an example. You can see here that you can choose to either upload your students' names and control their passwords, or you can give them a class code and let them set up a login, and then they have to keep up with the password. And I actually do that with a lot of things, but it just depends on how you want to work. In this example, I'm going to show you how to upload a class list so that you can control the data. So here I am created one for enrichment, and I'm going to let it know that I want the instructor to enroll. So that is what I have selected. Now that my class is created, I'm going to click on View Roster. And this just lets me see what information this particular piece of software needs and in what order. So I need my spreadsheet to be set up with the last name of my students in the first column, then the first name, and then I can put a student ID in, and then I can put the email in. All of those are optional. I like to have the email because then you can automatically send emails to everybody all at once and give them their passwords and other information. So now we're going to go back to our spreadsheet. So here I have a spreadsheet in which I've downloaded all of my students' names from my enrichment class for the year. The first thing I want to do is I want to separate the first and last names, and that's actually super easy. You just highlight the cells that have the student names. You go to the data menu, and this is really cool. It's just one button. You click text to columns, and it's going to ask a couple of questions. Just go with the default. Now in this case, it wants to know how the first and last name are separated. They're separated with a space between them. So I'm going to click there. I'm going to uncheck the tab, and you'll see that it now understands what the first name is and what the last name is. I'm going to click next. I want this to actually be text. I want Excel to see this data as text. And then I'm going to click on finish. So isn't that cool? Super easy. So now if we go back and look again, we can see we need last name to come first and then first name. So we need to move our different columns around, but that's pretty easy. So I'm going to right click on the column B with the last names, and I'm going to cut that column. And then I'm going to right click on A and paste it. And when I paste it, it'll go before the column I'm highlighting. But I'm going to choose Insert Cut Cells. And now I have my last name and my first name in the order that I want. So I'm going to go back and see what other fields or columns Kia wants me to have. It wants a student ID if I like. Now here's the thing, you don't have to put a student ID, but we have to leave column C empty if we don't, or it's going to get confused. So I'm just going to put numbers in here, and you can use this little trick in Excel where, or you can just type it all in, but there's this little thing called autofill where once Excel recognizes a pattern, you can use that little plus to drag, and it will number for you, which is a nice feature. Or you can just type it in, doesn't matter. Then in the last column, I need to see what, again, Kia is looking for. It's looking for an email address, and I want it to have email addresses because, again, I can just shoot an email to one or multiple students to give them their passwords. So this is a new feature that's really cool. I'm going to type in the email address for Elizabeth Azrak. So I'm going to type in Elizabeth Azrak at caryacademy.org. Okay, I'm going to click on this little check right here, which is a way of accepting it. Now, or you could have hit enter, but then you need to click back up in that cell. And you don't want to really click on it because it'll take you to the email address. So here's the thing. Now I can come up to Flash Fill and click this button up here. It's so cool. And check it out. It figures out to repeat that process for all the cells that have data in it. And that's just really cool. So now I have all my data set up. Now one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of the links so that it doesn't mess up doesn't mess anything up when I go to put it into Kia. So I'm going to right click and choose remove hyperlinks. There. Now we have all the data that Kia wants. So I'm going to go back over, well, and I'm going to save it. Control S to save. So now I'm going to go back over to Kia and I'm going to click on import student list. I'm going to choose the file that I just created, which for me is going to be called, it's under classroom organization because that's where I keep all my lists. I'm going to sort this by the date so it'll pop up to the top. I'm going to choose enrichment 1718 because that's my list of kids. Click on open, click on import, and there they all are. So I'm going to confirm and import. So you go through the same process regardless of what software you're using, whether it's Kia or some other software. You always check and see and make sure that you have your columns set up in the same order that your software wants you to have it set up in. And don't have any blank columns or rows between your data. For example, I wouldn't want to have a blank column in between column C and D because that would confuse the system. I wouldn't want to have a blank row, for example, in between row 5 or 6 because again it confuses the system. So don't have any blank rows or columns. And Excel sees all the data as one set of data. So I hope that's helpful.